opportunities in the Russian market is just vast. Russia is not only the largest country of this world, but also with a population of more than 140 million people. It is representing the amount, obviously, of potential clients, of potential customers, companies in e-commerce can have there. We're talking about the internet penetration of roughly 70% right now in Russia. So that means, translating this number, 98 million people that are online in the Russian market, making it obviously bigger than any of the European markets, for example. So Russia actually, in the end of the day, with the amount of internet user, is the 8th biggest market in the whole world. So just talking about this, how many people you can reach in the internet, and that e-commerce can obviously reach in the internet. We're talking about 98 million people that are active in the market. And also, as a matter of fact, the average income, when we are looking at the Russian market, was increasing quite tremendously in the last 10 to 15 years. That means that also the buying power of your potential average client obviously also increased, particularly in the European part of Russia, particularly in cities like, for example, Moscow and St. Petersburg. So just by the sheer amount of potential clients, it is representing a huge opportunity, first and foremost for e-com here. And then also in terms of level of digitalization, the Russian market is quite advanced in terms of front end. That means really B2C and e-coms. There are several market players, and this is quite different also to when we are thinking about maybe the Central European markets. There are several marketplaces, like, for example, the biggest one, Wildberries, followed by Yandex, which is with its very own marketplace, but also other players like, for example, Ozon, etc. And what is very important here to see is that these players are among the 20 most visited websites in Russia. So people spend a lot of time actually in this kind of e-coms to shop. So this is also basically really representing that this is representing a great opportunity, because people spend a lot of time in there. And now also talking about some things that are quite specific about Russia. You were mentioning right now that still 60% of the people prefer to also pay in cash. So right now we are having a direct delivery, of course, of logistical partners in the Russian market. And for example, if you are ordering fashion in Russia, you have you can not only pay in cash, you can have also something like a try-on service. That means that the guy that is delivering the post to you or the package to you is waiting in front of your door for 10 to 15 minutes. You are trying on the stuff, and you're literally then returning the things that you don't like, and you're paying only straight cash for the things that you actually like. So people are really used to this kind of option, but pickup stations are also increasingly becoming extremely important in the Russian market and are very big. People are using this. And also what we see in the last couple of years, credit card payments, digital wallets are going to overtake also this kind of cash payment. So this is a trend that we not only see worldwide, this is also a trend that we see in Russia. And we believe that within the next 2 years that this will actually overtake the general cash payments.
That's fascinating. Okay, so definitely a huge market. I got that. The one thing that strikes me is that obviously Russian people have a different user behavior, right? They act differently. And just the example that you mentioned about the delivery person actually waiting on somebody to try on stuff and then taking it with them again. I mean, that I've maybe that exists in other markets. I've definitely never experienced it myself, and it sounds very convenient. What other kind of traits do we find in Russia, things that are different that people have to keep in mind if they want to enter the Russian market?
Yeah, I would say it's coming down to convenience and pace. So convenience that I mentioned right now with an example is this try-on service that is just mega convenient, mega customer-centric, customer-friendly. And when it's coming to really pace, it's about the delivery time. I give you an example right now. When I was spending time in St. Petersburg, I was living there in January and February. I was ordering, for example, a coffee machine because I'm personally addicted to coffee, and Russians are actually more the tea drinking kind of guys. Yeah, the delivery time was 1.5 hours.
What?
So I ordered this online, and the Russian version of that, you know, obviously also very well, MediaMarkt, and this was Eldorado, and they delivered it within 1.5 hours door to door. This is the delivery time, and this is the convenience. This service has costed me 180 rubles, which is translated into USD to 250.
Wow,
250 for
amazing.
having a delivery time of 1.5 hours in the city center of St. Petersburg, and people care about it because people in Russia very often want to have the stuff delivered now, and if they want something, they want it right now, and they are also expecting this kind of logistical services and this level of convenience and this level of pace also from the local players and marketplaces. But also ecoms are investing heavily into logistics, and particularly here we are talking about last mile delivery. Also one of the topics that Yandex is right now investing a lot in order to make it convenient, in order to make it extremely fast. That's a major difference, especially where I'm also living. I'm living in Switzerland, and the normal delivery time here is 2 to 3 business days. That is something that in Moscow or St. Petersburg would be considered slow. And here we would say, hey, that's actually quite okay. That's actually fast. So that's a mega difference in comparison maybe to the Central European markets, for example.
Yeah, definitely. I was just wondering, like, so I live in Vienna, Austria, and it's probably quite similar to the situation in Switzerland. And like next day delivery is typically the very, very best that a place like Amazon can offer. And other shops are, as you say, usually more within the 3 to 5 business day range, right? Interesting. Okay. I have another question regarding the internet landscape in general, right? So I'm more of a social media guy, but obviously search engines are super important SEO traffic and also paid ads on the big engines when it comes to driving e-commerce. Can you share a little bit more about that space and how it is in Russia?
Yeah, Russia is actually in the end of the day quite unique and can in this case only be also compared to maybe the Chinese market, obviously also with Baidu there, or for example, the South Korean market with Naver. In Russia, the clear market leader is Yandex, so really the local search engine. 68% of all traffic from desktop is coming on Yandex. 51% of all mobile traffic is going through Yandex. So Yandex is definitely the most important search engine in the Russian market, of course, followed by Google. And this is obviously also a quite unique situation in the Russian market in terms of search. But you mentioned right now that you obviously also like social. And worthwhile mentioning here is that Russia also has its very own social platform that is called vKontakte. And this is actually the market leader. This is the second most visited website after Yandex, after the Yandex search site, and is much bigger than, for example, Facebook. And this is also a unique situation in the Russian market where local players like Yandex, like vKontakte, are actually having a bigger share than our global players that we obviously know and we all use.
That's super interesting, right? What I think is that for me personally, I guess it would be quite a learning curve to understand all of these different players. But I guess in the end, how they operate is quite similar to the other big players that you see in other markets, right? With the added benefit that most likely you have less competition from internationals, but definitely from local players. I have another question regarding, you mentioned Google, right? Obviously Google is massive. The whole SEO landscape is typically geared towards Google and what you're gonna do there. Is SEO actually a big thing in the Russian system and on Yandex? And how can I imagine it being different to what people are used to when they work with Google?
Basically, it's really quite comparable. So that means that obviously for us, SEO is extremely important. And in Russia, SEO is as important as in any other market that we can think of right now. And also the principles actually are very, very similar also to other search engines, also of course in comparison directly to Google. But there's a little bit of a certain kind of what I'm calling localization also to the Yandex platform. And the tool that we are also recommending for that is obviously then also a local tool or a Yandex tool, which is the Yandex Webmaster tool. And this tool is then obviously also helping you in terms of optimizing really your SEO in the end of the day, site quality, checking of violations with the Yandex search engine, page crawling. That means checking really the content and checking the quality of the content. And this is just basically the same for us. This SEO is for most of the players bread and butter. And obviously optimization there is extremely important, and Yandex is no exception to that. So it's basically with similar principles like Google as important in terms of SEO optimization.
All right. Well, I'm very interested in the content. Obviously, SEO is a lot about the content, and I assume since you mentioned it's a similar game then on Google, content is getting more and more important. What is it that Russian people have searched for mostly over the last year or so, apart from COVID, I guess?
Exactly. I mean, let's leave COVID out of that. But what people actually did, we all spent more time at home, of course. And so did Russian people. So in Russia, in terms of COVID, there was a lockdown in the month of April 2020. And what people started searching for was do it yourself, basically. This category went absolutely through the roof. So everything that is also related to renovating your own flat, interior or new interior designs for your own flat was going absolutely through the roof. But of course, also other industries, like when I'm thinking about gaming right now, saw a huge acceleration in terms of COVID. So the traffic that also gaming clients got right now in the Russian market is quite tremendous. And of course, we also know Russia has one of the biggest publishers in terms of game development, especially in the app space. So this is obviously has been a great acceleration here, what we see in gaming. Also in dating, of course, people couldn't see each other in person. So people obviously went online to get to know each other. So also this platform was growing quite a lot. The biggest winner in terms of e-commerce, maybe just to mention here shortly, is definitely fashion. What happened here is Russian people are also adapting quite fast to a changing environment. And that means that we have seen also in the fashion industry a lot of new, unique clients that for the very first time were converting online. And we are talking here about a number of roughly 8.5 million people that were converting for the very first time online. And especially the fashion industry was going through the roof. Year over year, we are talking about 19% growth in the fashion industry, in fashion e-com. Offline, of course, has its challenges right now, but the e-coms were taking over. And all fashion brands, what we also saw locally, were investing heavily in their e-com, and there was a shift in terms of their marketing budgets, also definitely towards their e-coms, and that definitely has been one of the major, the major things that people in Russia were really looking for, searching for, and converting and buying.
Right.